Thank you, Julia. So my name is Dawn Nordenblank, and I'm the Digital Event Manager at World Water Week. For this training, my partner in crime is Julia Lundevall, who is our Project Manager at Trippus. I also want to give a shout out to our technical host, my colleague Jesse, and he is managing the PowerPoint for us. So what we're going to show you today is, for you who are a session host, how to manage and host your session on the digital platform. And for you who are an exhibitor, how to edit your booth, and also take a look at the exhibitor portal, and we'll go through the features that are there. So let's get started. Next slide, please, Jessie. We'll take a look at the agenda. First up, let's look at the digital platform. I'm going to zoom in on the program specifically and the session in detail. We'll also look at some of the other menu options. Next, I will show you how attendees can create their own schedule and join sessions digitally via the platform. Then we take a look at editing your session. This is via the Convener Edit module, which I'm assuming the majority of you have already access to this and on your way and editing your session. Then we'll look at the registration, how to register your speakers and yourself as session hosts. Then I'll take a dive into the types of sessions and what that means in terms of the digital setup, where Zoom is concerned for, I guess, the majority of the sessions. Then Julia will run through using Zoom on the platform. We'll take a look at interpretation. This year we have a new service provider, a Swiss company called Interprefy, and we have Interprefy integrated on Zoom. So we'll run through that. Then we will go through exhibition. And I just want to mention that what we're covering today is all the online aspects of the exhibition as relative to the digital platform. So we won't be covering things like catering and printing, although that information is available in the portal and was sent via email. Then we will look at resources. We have some web links that could be very useful for you and some email addresses, particularly in the lead up and preparation of your session for World Water Week. And lastly, we'll take some questions. If you have a question, feel free to add that in the chat as the presentation is running. I have my colleagues Victoria and Adina monitoring the chat, so they will be answering questions where they can, and the questions they are unable to answer we'll take at the end. So without further ado, there's a lot to cover. Let's go to the next slide, please, Jessie. Thank you. So this is the home page. Let me just minimize the views. Okay, this is the home page of the platform. Now, when the program launched on the 1st of June, the platform also launched. So this is available if you are on the worldwaterweek.org website, our website, and if you navigated to the program, you will land here. So there is a lot more information on the homepage than what you currently see on the screen. So below the fold, we have some curated sessions by geographical region. We are also included curated sessions under First Nations. We have Center Stage, and we also have young professionals. So please check that out if you haven't already done so. And then further down the page is a downloadable guide to World Water Week. But what we're focusing here is all these menu items at the top. So I'm going to just touch on each of these. Now, if you were with us last year, you see that the items are more or less the same. The only difference that we have this year is we've added a ticket page. So now you're able to register and purchase your ticket on the platform. Ticket sales or ticket pay information is also available on the worldwaterweek.org website, so you can purchase the ticket there if you choose. Now, under community, it's the same as last year, and Julia will show some previews of what that looks like. We have 3 items in the drop-down menu. We have attendees, so everyone who's registered for the week. Then we have a speaker list, quite useful if you want to do a search there. Then we have the list of organizations, so yourselves, convening organizations and or exhibitors. Now, if you have an online booth, then we will have a hyperlink from your name to your booth. So the exhibition that is currently live, and Julia will show that later on in the presentation. So the community is not visible at the moment, and I'll explain why in a second. Then we have the waterfront map. So the venue is the Waterfront Congress, and we're currently working on the map, and it should be uploaded by the end of the month. So this is very useful because it's a big venue. If you were with us last year at Nora Latin, it's a lot bigger. It's on a couple of levels. I guess so was Nora Latin, but it's big. So we have plotted out, you know, where the exhibition stands are and where the rooms are. So it will be very useful. I'm sure you'll be referring to that. I know I probably will be on site. So that will be coming online very soon, end of the month. Then we have the social wall. This is the same as last year. And the social wall is linked to Twitter. It's linked to Twitter. And how that works is if you do a tweet and then if you hashtag WWWeek, that tweet will appear in the social wall. So it's you know, the page is quite dynamic, and it's a good way to, you know, promote your session, make announcements, and be visible. So if you have a Twitter account, then I thoroughly highlight to use that. And when you're navigating to the social wall, you'll see the hashtag there, so you don't need to remember what I just said in terms of the hashtag. Then we have the FAQ. So if you have any questions, so first up, just, you know, take a look at that page, because chances are some of the questions is probably already answered there. We have some information on interpretation as well, so how an attendee would listen to interpretation when they're in the session. So that is quite useful. So next slide, please, Jessie. So let's have a look. Oh, sorry, can you go back? I forgot something. Let's talk about the program. That's the most important thing for the moment. Now we have this drop-down menu here. If you want to find your session, then I would suggest you click on all sessions and do a search or filter to find your session there. We also have some other items in the drop-down menu if someone wanted to, for instance, look at all the activities on center stage. Now, the last option there is the program overview, and this is an illustration of the week. Could be quite useful because we have close to 300 sessions, so it's nice to have that overview of the week and see how things hang together. Now you can go to the next slide, Jessie. So this is the view after you click on all sessions, and we've categorized the program according to the days, as you see up the top. We have 2 different views for the program. You have the line format, which is what this is currently on, or you have the grid format. So you see in the top left-hand corner there. We also have a search box there, which I'll go through in a bit. At the moment, I have the filter on for online sessions. But let's have a look at a session. So we'll take the first one. So you see the day, well, Sunday, and then you have the title. So this is a title that you added when you applied, or maybe you changed it since then. Then you have the times, and I just want to say all the times that are on the program, on the platform, they're all in a Central European summertime. So it's not the time zone that Sweden is currently in. So just make it particularly if you're in another time zone. And then you have the location. Because I have the filter on for online, it's showing all online sessions. Now, if you have an on-site and online, or and on-site. The on-site means no digital audience. Then you will have the room name there in the location. Next, we have some tags and some keywords. So the gold standard for that particular session, collaborate to accelerate, they obviously checked the gold standard when they applied for the session. So that just automatically feeds through there. We've added the online tag to make it easier for someone to sort of like navigate, and if they wanted to look, online sessions versus on-site and so on and so forth. And then we have these keywords here: climate change, technology, ecosystems, and innovation, because you can have up to 5 keywords. And this is what the session host for this particular session has marked when they applied for the session. So let's take a look at the search box. So if one was to hover over the I, which stands for information, they will see the type of terms that they can enter in the search. So it would be either session title, session ID, or keywords. One thing to note, that the spelling needs to be exactly the same. So if I was to input sustainable in there, it will not give me the search results which have sustainability in that. So it's just something worth noting. And of course, if you're doing multiple searches, just remember to just clear the filter, because I'm guilty of that and had a little minor panic when I'm doing multiple searches and not clearing the filter. But in terms of filters, we have 3 options there. So you have online, on-site, and online or on-site. So you could filter under these terms. And then we have a couple of session formats there. So if one was looking for all the online showcases, then it's just a matter of clicking on that tag. And then lastly, we have interpreted sessions flagged here. So currently we have 1 session book, their session for Arabic interpretation. So I strongly urge you, and just it will appear on the session card as well. It'll be an additional tag that says interpreted session and the Arabic. So just wanted to mention that. If you're thinking of booking interpretation, I would encourage you to book as soon as possible, and you can find the booking form on the worldwaterweek.org website under convene, or the CSP. So next slide, please, Jessie. So let's take a look at a session. So if you were to click on one of those sessions, and I've just chosen one here at random, you will have more details in the pop-up. So you will have the title, the date and time, of course, and the location. So this session is an on-site and online session, and the location is C3. So it's important that you remember that location for, of course, knowing where to go, but also we'll talk about the Zoom sort of setup, and because we've done it by room names. We have the tags and the keywords, as I've already mentioned. And then what is interesting with this session is that the speaker, one of their speakers, has registered. So when they register, it will appear on the session card, but they will need to put in the session ID so that it comes onto the correct card. And then you will also see that the 3 session hosts have registered. Maybe they have more, I'm not sure. But in any case, 3 of the session hosts for this session have registered, and that is why they appear on the card. So this is a good way for you to check with your speakers. If they're not on the card, then there could be multiple reasons that they haven't registered, or they have registered and they haven't put the session ID, but we will go into that in more detail later on. Now, beneath the session host, you have a button Add to Calendar, and this is very useful if you're an online host in a different time zone, because when you click on that button, it will give you the choice of which calendar you're using, and it will add the title and then the time in your local time. So it's good, I guess, a reminder of the time and when to show up for your session. Now we have the session ID number, which is very important because, you know, there's so many sessions and it's a good way to find that session. So that's particularly useful. Now there is a scroll bar on the right-hand side of the pop-up, as you can see. So there's a lot more items beneath the subtitle there, summary. So after summary, you have the description, you have the program, and then you have a list of convening organizations. I think that was all I wanted to say for this slide. So I think you could go to the next slide, Jessie. So I wanted to talk about registration, and if you have registered, you probably would have noticed the text in your email that said you will receive a personal link to the digital platform on the 1st of August. I know this can be a little bit confusing because the platform has launched and you can actually go onto the platform and browse the program and some of the other menu items that those pages are currently available. Now that link that a registered person will receive on the 1st of August, so registrations after the 1st of August will also receive their own personal link. That link allows you to do more stuff and see more stuff on the platform compared to someone who wasn't registered and navigated to the platform from worldwaterweek.org if they went through to the program. So the first thing is that you will be able to create your own schedule. And this is what this slide is about. So we have two views here. You have the grid format that I alluded to, that's in the top left. And then you have the list format, which we've already seen. Then you see the plus symbol next to each of those sessions. And this is how one would add the session to create their own schedule. Now, how you find your schedule or my schedule, it will be in the drop-down menu from the program. So it's the first item there if you see in the top right-hand corner. So I mentioned there's a couple of things that, someone that's registered, that's received the personal link will allow them to do. So the first thing was creating your own schedule. The other thing is that you will be able to see all those pages under community, because someone who hasn't registered will not be able to see that. So it's very important that you do register. And the other thing is that in the online booths, if someone, where did that PowerPoint go? I think that Jessie's internet has died. Don't worry, it will be up again. So as I mentioned, if you have an online booth, you have an option to activate a chat in your booth. So if you're registered, you will be able to see that chat and ask questions to the exhibiting organization. And lastly, the most important is that you'll be able to join a session. So for someone who's not registered, they won't be able to join a session, and we'll show you how that looks further in on the presentation. So I think I am done with that slide. I'm going to hand over to Julia.
Thank you, Dawn. So Jessie, if we can have the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So as Dawn said, you can see here through the personal link that we're still on, that you will be able to join the meeting. And this is just a mock-up picture, so it won't say start meeting. On the real platform, it will say join meeting. And you will have the chat. If your session is a Zoom webinar, you will have the chat here next to where the meeting is started on the platform. And if you're having a Zoom meeting, the chat will be in the Zoom meeting. And to the right, you can see what the community will look like. So there will be the speakers, and then you will have attendees and the organizations. Yes, next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about the online session hosts and also the on-site session hosts. You have all received an email with some information from us. It's both regarding how to edit your session and as well how to register. So if we start with the online session hosts, The email that you have received looks like this. And to start with, I would like to talk about the registration for you. We have pre-registered all of you for an online full access pass, but we only have your email address and your name. So we kindly ask you to go through the edit personal information link that you can find in the email to complete your registration. It's very important that you do so, so that we can get all of the information, both on the session card and that you will appear in the community as well. Let's look at the on-site session host's email. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. The information is pretty similar. The only thing that's different is the registration part. So for you attending on-site, you have to register yourself through the ticket link. You have it in the email. It's very important that all of you register yourself, because we will send out a Zoom link through email only to registered persons, registered conveners and session hosts. So please make sure to register. This link will be sent out approximately 3 days before World Water Week starts. It's also important that you register yourself so that you appear in the community and also on the session card that Dawn showed earlier. Yes, if we can go to the next slide. So this is a part of the registration form that you will fill out, but I just want to highlight a question in the form. That's, are you a speaker or session host / convener? Make sure to look out for this field in the registration form so that you can fill out your session IDs, because it's those ones that we are looking for when adding you to the session cards and in the community. So please fill those out. And then I would like to move further to the convener module, because in the email that you received, you have a link. Click here to edit your session. Next slide, please, Jessie. Thank you. The link will take you to this login page for conveners. So you enter your session ID and your email address to log in. Please note that there is the same login details for all session hosts of the session. So you will have to share your login details if you are multiple session hosts for that particular session. Next slide, please. Once you logged in, the admin will look like this. There are some fields that you can't register, you can't edit yourself, which is the session ID, date and time, conveners, and the keywords. In case you need to change any of these, please contact the World Water Week team and they will help you. The fields that you can edit yourself is the summary, description, program, and also the title field. And make sure to go in and edit and add your program at least. If you would like to add a link to a file or a link to a video or a poll, you can do so by the link icon in the text editor. And with that said, I will hand it over back to you, Dawn.
Thank you, Julia. So let's look at the types of sessions that you are hosting. Now, if you are hosting an online session, which is 60 minutes, it means that your session will be set up for a Zoom meeting. And a Zoom meeting gives you the capacity to break out your audience into small groups via breakout rooms. That's basically what we mean when we say Zoom meeting. Now, if you have an online showcase, which is 30 minutes, the session is set up for a Zoom webinar. So you don't have the option of breaking out your audience into small groups. And I just want to mention for the Zoom meeting, that option is there. It's up to you if you choose to use it. Now, if you have an on-site and online session that is not a talk show, then if you are located in rooms A2, and then you can find this in the session card detail where we have location, which I pointed out earlier. If you're in rooms A2, A3, A4, C1, C2, and C4, that means that the session is set up for a Zoom webinar. I also want to point out that sessions in A3 and A4 are silent sessions, which means as the attendee enters the room, they will be given a set of headphones plus a receiver to follow the session. Now, if your session is in C3, it means that the setup is for Zoom meeting. So you will have breakout rooms for the online audience, and you will also have breakout rooms in the room. And how we will do that? We will do that by using tables. So one table will be one group, and so on and so forth. Now, if you're hosting a talk show, then this will be a live stream on Vimeo on the digital platform. Now, if anyone is hosting a film screening, we're going to have to get back to you because we're still working out the logistics for that. Rest assured, you will be notified very soon about what the setup is. If you're hosting a workshop and training, there is no online audience, so you're fine. You don't need to worry about any technical aspects with relation to Zoom or live stream. And I think I am done with this slide. I'm going to hand over to Julia to walk us through Zoom on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. And as I said earlier, the Zoom link will be sent out only to registered session hosts. So please make sure to register, and it will be sent out 3 days before World Water Week starts. I'm sure many of you have used Zoom before, but there are some guidelines for World Water Week that I would like to go through with you. For each of the sessions, there will be a TRIPUS technician and a person from World Water Week attending. So we will be there in the meeting to help you out if you have any questions or anything like that. Green room opens 20 minutes before the session starts, so make sure to join on time since there are some things to go through before the session starts. And I also kindly ask you to join with your full name and make sure it's correct because we have a long list of participants to search in. So it will make it really more fast if you can make sure that the name is correct. There will be a general recording of your session, and it will be uploaded to the platform shortly after the session. Make sure to inform your speakers about the time and that there is limited time after the meeting, since mostly the next session is started directly after. I recommend you to give a shout to the speaker when there is 5 minutes left of the session to make sure you're holding the time limit. For each of the sessions, we from TRIPUS side has some checkpoints to go through. So please be aware that there aren't much time before the session starts. And some examples for questions we will ask in the green room is about the security settings, if the participants should be able to unmute themselves, start a video, and so on. If you would like to have breakout rooms during your session, please tell the technician and they will go through how it works with you. They will also go through how to spotlight your speakers. You and your speakers will be able to test sharing your screen to make sure you feel confident with that procedure. And if you have any questions during the session, you can always reach out to the technician in the chat. As you can see to the right here, you can choose who to send a message to. So you can choose to send it to everyone or to the TRIPUS technician. So that's recommended for you as session hosts if you have any question for the technician. If your meeting is a Zoom meeting, you will use the chat through Zoom. The participants will use the chat through Zoom. And if there is a Zoom webinar, it will appear on the platform, as I said earlier. Make sure that you have someone looking out for the chat if you have questions in there. And if we can go to the next slide, please, Jessie. Thank you. If your session do have interpretation, it's 2 different ways of using interpretation depending on what session type you have. If there is a Zoom meeting, there will be an interpretation button at the bottom menu. I think you can see it already in this Zoom meeting. We don't have any languages attached, but you can see the button at least. If you do have a language attached, you can click on interpretation and you can choose the language. If you're having a Zoom webinar, there will be a widget on the platform, like you can see on the below picture here. And so you click on the headphones to choose your language. And with that said, I will hand over to you again, Dawn.
Great, thanks, Julia. There it goes, switched on my video. So yes, if you're hosting an on-site and online session, and it happens to be a talk show, then you will have our production company tech people in the room with you. So we used 20 studios last year. So for some of you returning conveners, you may recognize some familiar faces. But if you're hosting a talk show, then the 20 studios people in the room, the tech personnel, will take care of the live stream on Vimeo on the platform. So you actually don't really need to do so much. However, if you're not hosting a talk show, but you have an on-site and online session, there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. The first thing is that we are providing a laptop for you. This will be available in the room. And then we would also ask you to save all the materials, PowerPoint, video files, etc., onto a USB stick and head to the speaker room, which will be marked on the map well in advance of your session, to hand it over to the person there, and then they will upload that material to a central drive. So when you get to the room, the session room, and you open up the laptop, you will be able to find those files there. Now, as I mentioned, there will be, or maybe I didn't mention that, there will be 20 studios tech support staff in the room to handle all the tech requirements. You will also have the Trippers tech person online in Zoom as a support, particularly if you have to enter the green room and obtain instructions from them. Now, if your session is in C3, you're going to have 2 people from 20 studios there to support you. One is a cameraman and the other person is an image producer. So the image producer's job is to toggle between the on-site view and the online presenters in the Zoom meeting setup, assuming that you have online presenters, of course, according to your run sheet. So what I mean by this, don't be scared by the run sheet, is that we will be sending out an email with a run sheet template that we would kindly ask you to fill out, because these details is what we'll be providing to 20 studios to ensure that your presentation runs super smoothly and everyone will be happy. Now, you will need to join the green room 20 minutes before your session starts, because you have an online audience that you need to break out into rooms. And then, of course, if you have a remote speaker, then that will be the opportunity to greet them and maybe go through some last points. Now, if your session is in A2, A3, A4, C1, C2, and C4, you will have one person from 20 studios, the cameraman, and they will toggle between the on-site to your online speakers in the Zoom webinar setup. Assuming, again, that you have remote speakers, you will need to join the green room 20 minutes only if you have remote speakers. Now, I just want to recommend to everyone to consider having a technical host, because this person would help alleviate some of the stress for the moderators and speakers, you know, by sharing the files, managing the PowerPoint, and also monitoring the chat. They could very well answer questions in the chat. So that's one tip for everyone. Next slide, please, Jessie. So for interpretation, if your on-site and online session has interpretation, then you have the on-site audience that won't be looking at screens, they'll be in the room. So how do they access the interpretation? So I have some visuals here of the Interprefy app, and it will be customized for World Water Week, rest assured. And then I have some instructions on the right-hand side. And these instructions are available in the FAQ page on the platform. What I should say is we're working towards having a QR code sign, and my colleagues in logistics is probably having a minor heart attack because I haven't told them about this additional signage, but we'll work something out. So we're thinking of having the QR code, if your session has interpretation, ready at the door, so then attendees as they enter can easily just scan that QR code. They'll take them right to the app and to your session, and they don't really need to follow these instructions. But if someone did miss the QR code, then this is how you would get to the interpretation of your session, downloading the app. And we have links in the FAQ, but it's not featured here. So this is how your on-site attendees will be able to listen to the interpretation if your session does indeed have that. So now I'm going to hand over to Julia to walk us through exhibition. Thanks.
Thank you, Dawn. Yes, let's talk a little bit about exhibition. So for you as an exhibitor, you have received an email with a link to complete your registration booth. It looks like you can see to the left here, and make sure to go to the link and complete the registration of your booth. The button will lead you to a page where you can both design your booth, as you can see here to the right, and it will also ask you to insert your invoice details. So all information you fill out here for the design will then show up in your digital booth. Please, Jessie, if you can go to the next slide. So this is what the digital exhibition floor will look like. So once you click on a logo here, it will open up your booth. So next slide, please, Jessie. Then it looks like this. So this is inside the booth. I highly recommend you to have the platform with the exhibition floor available when you are designing your booth, because then you can see the changes that you've done directly on the platform. As you can see here, next to the About tab, there will be a chat as well. So from 1st of August, when the personal link is sent out to participants, they can start sending you chat messages if you have asked for this in the registration form. If you haven't already and changed your mind, you can still go into the registration form and ask for a chat. Further instructions on how to moderate your chat will be entered to the exhibitor portal that I will go through shortly. Next slide, please. Once you have submitted your registration for your booth, you will receive another email with an invitation to the exhibitor portal. It's the email to the left in this slide. Please make sure to follow the link and create your exhibitor portal account. Please note that this account is, it's only one account per exhibitor. So if you are multiple persons that should be in the exhibitor portal, you will have to share your login details with them. When you log in, you will see the page to the right, which is the dashboard. Within here, you as on-site exhibitors will be able to register for your free exhibition passes, which is 2. So you can see here in the personal box, you can enter your staff for the booth. So you click on either the person with a plus sign, or you click on the link icon if you should send the registration form to someone. If you do have any guests that you would like to attend the World Water Week, you can send them the link for the guests box. So you click on the link icon for that one. So this refers to both online exhibitors and on-site exhibitors. The link for guests is for an online full access pass. So I highly recommend you to invite any guests. I'll go through the left-hand menu with you. So we have gone through the dashboard. And if we go further down to information, in that tab, there will be a lot more information both for on-site and online exhibitors. And it's also here you can find information about how the chat in your digital booth works. I recommend you to read through the information here. So you have all of the information for your exhibition. Then you have the scan leads and areas of interests menu here. It relates to on-site exhibitors, and it's about scanning leads on site. There will be a further training on this in the beginning of August. So I won't dig deeper into that now, but both of them relates to on-site exhibitors. On your digital booth, there will also be a button saying leave a business card. Information from the business card will then be shown under leads in this menu. So the participants can then leave their contact details for you to contact them after the event. So there will be a report for that under leads. Visitors means you can see all of your digital visitors in your booth. So you can see how many visited your booth during the event. And under your participants, you will be able to see if your staff has registered and if any of your guests that you've invited has registered through the link that you sent. And with that said, I will hand it over to you again, Dawn.
Thank you, Julia. We're getting close to the end of the presentation. I want to thank you all for your patience. There's a lot of information to absorb. So we have on the resource page, we've collected some useful URLs, and my colleague Jessie, or maybe Adina or Victoria, will cut a copy and paste this into the chat for you so that you could save that for when you need to refer to it. So the first one is the direct link to the digital platform. So you don't have to go via worldwaterweek.org, navigate to the program, and then land on the platform. So here, this link takes you directly to the platform. The second link is the convener module edit, the convener edit module, which I'm sure that most of you are familiar with already. And then we have put in the exhibitor portal link. So you'll need the password that you created, as well as your email to enter. Then I highly recommend that you please take a look, if you haven't already done so, at the pages of the Convener Success Program, because there's a wealth of information there. You have checklists for online sessions, checklists for on-site and online, and it goes into a little bit more detail than what we've covered in this training today. There's also useful links if you want to make your session more interactive. There's some polling companies that we've suggested, for example, Mentimeter, and that's quite easy to set up. But yeah, other things talking about lighting as well when you're presenting, use of headphones, and etc., etc. So please, if you haven't already done so, I strongly urge you to take a look at that. And of course, the recording of this session will be posted there. Now, if you haven't used Zoom before, you can create a free account on there. So I would recommend that maybe you create a free account and do a rehearsal with your speakers, just so that you are a little bit more comfortable with the interface. Now the presentation has disappeared, so I have a printout right next to me, so don't worry, we got it. Then we have, yes, so I've talked about the free account. There's also a link for for testing your internet connection and also your bandwidth. This is probably more applicable for the on-site session host, because at the venue for your on-site and online sessions, we have the internet connection, we have the bandwidth, so not to worry about that. But if you're a host for an online session, then please, if a good idea to check. Then lastly, we have the 2 support emails, one to Trippus. So for any questions around the technical issues and also registration, please direct that to Trippus, support@trippus.se. And then for all the other questions, you can send them to us, worldwaterweek@cwe.org. So yeah, that was all from us, but let's take some questions because I see it's been popping up as I've been presenting lots of questions. So maybe I will ask Adina or Victoria if there is a question that you haven't been able to answer in the chat. Maybe you'd like to unmute yourselves and read that out loud, and Julia and I will do our best to answer. And I see we only have 5 minutes, and that's our fault because of the technical difficulty at the start, but rest assured, if we don't get to all the questions, we will respond via email to you individually with answers. So fire away, Adina or Victoria.
Dawn, I think actually we've gotten to a lot of the questions, and as you said, we're running out of time. So I suggest that everybody, if you haven't gotten your question answered, please email us directly and we will make sure to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. Next slide, please, Jessie. I just want to thank everyone again for your patience. It's a lot of information to absorb. The recording will be on the CSP pages, and what we'll do is we'll timestamp it into chapters, which will make it easier for you to find the information without having to watch the whole recording again. Big thank you from myself, Julia, and the rest of the World Water Week team, and we look forward to seeing you online or in Stockholm in August. Good luck.